I'd like to turn the corner a little bit and ask about sexuality and parenting. You've said some things about the importance of talking about this to our children because the culture is so loud, and parents and the church seem to be so silent. I was wondering if you could say some more about the importance of gender sexuality conversations.
I think that this topic of sexuality, I just don't think you can, in our culture, overstate its importance. I think it's absolutely impossible to overstate it. And I think it's a tragedy that while the world is talking all the time, the church has been strangely silent, strangely reticent. Parents can't work through their own embarrassment to have these conversations. If you have children, here's what you need to understand. You now live in a culture that has gone sexually insane. It's insane. There's no sanity out there. I mean, we are to the point where we're putting knives to the chest of our young women to give them larger breasts so they have a stronger sexual self. We would have looked at tribes that stretched the ear or stretched the neck or bound the feet as being primitive. We're just as primitive. We're crazy.
We're selling baby thongs. Baby thongs.
Yeah.
There are catalogs that show up and they have thongs for little 2-year-old girls. It's
well,
ridiculous.
I was in Old Navy, which is obviously not a radical store, and I looked across the aisle. I was with my son, and there was a rack for 5-year-old girls, and was a micro mini and a halter top, and I was immediately in a rage. I thought, how will this little girl ever have any kind of normal sense of self if you dress her that way? Fortunately, my son was with me, and he kept saying, "Dad, you're not going to do something, are you?" Or I may have gotten violent. So I think this is a very, very important area. Parents need to be biblically clear about this area. Dads need to know your sons need you, and they don't need you just to have one creepy, embarrassed talk about sex and never have the subject open again, because the questions of an 11-year-old are different than the questions of a 13-year-old, are different than the temptations of a 15-year-old. This has to be an ongoing conversation that we're just not embarrassed to have. And same thing with moms. Your daughters need you, and there is such a freaked out, weird, distorted view of what in the world a woman is in our culture. It's very distressing. And the influence of that is shockingly young. Since we're talking about this, the last family on a conference weekend that came to me weeping and broken about a son who was absolutely deeply addicted to pornography. You ready for this? He was 8 years old. Now, he had a computer in his bedroom, which was dumb for an 8-year-old anyway. Dumb, dumb, dumb. Can I say it again? Dumb. And they had no idea. And one day, Mom was actually cleaning the keyboard and enlivened the screen, and there it was. And this kid he didn't even have the full maturity to understand all that he was looking at, but exposed to the most perverse things you could ever imagine.
What was the next step in that? What happened to follow up on that?
Well, wasn't able to hang in with them and counsel them because I was just there for a weekend.
What kind of things would you say?
Well, the one thing I said first to the parents is, don't run and hide, don't panic until you're paralyzed. Realize the grace that you've embraced is big enough to wrap its arms around this. Addiction to pornography doesn't stand outside of the circle of the grace of the gospel. It's for this kind of ugliness that Jesus died. And remember that we don't embrace a system of redemption. We believe in a Redeemer. God has chosen in his redemptive mercy to put this boy in a family of faith. That's grace already operating. And you need to step forward in faith and courage, believe that the gospel is a message of fresh starts and new beginnings, that God can fundamentally renew the heart of this little boy, but you need to quit being naive and you need to get serious.
And going back to the theme of rescue, that the God who sent his son to die and raise him from the dead is a God who does rescue, who is active, who actually cares more about their son than they do.
Right.
And that's a lot of hope, knowing as a parent that they have that behind them.
And would be because of the understanding that Christ has of sin, more grieved than those parents would ever be at the heart of that boy.